Welcome back, college football fans, to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. This is my instant reaction and recap to Iowa's 32-20 loss last night at Spartan Stadium against the Michigan State Spartans. With the victory, Michigan State improves to 4-3 overall, 2-2 in Big Ten Conference play, while with the loss, Iowa falls to 4-3 also, and also is 2-2 in Big Ten Conference play. My initial thoughts and hot takes on this game before I break it down in depth is, first of all, I want to say congrats to Michigan State. Big win for first-year coach Jonathan Smith there in East Lansing. With that victory, they'd get a little bit closer to bowl eligibility, which would be a huge accomplishment there for Sparty, especially, right in the beginning of a legit rebuild. So big victory for them. Got to give big shout outs to Michigan State's crowd. They were ruckus. They were in it the entire time. And so that's kind of the big picture for Michigan State. I mean, big win. Now, big picture for Iowa. Iowa fans, we can officially now stop, the playoff conversation and even the Big Ten championship game conversations, because with the loss, Iowa is done. They will not be playing for any big prizes at the end of the season. Now it just comes down to pride. What do you have left? What are you going to play for? And how motivated will you be? Because when it came down to it, Hawk fans, you saw it yourselves, even though the scoreboard, only showed a difference of 12 points, that seems like it's kind of a competitive, close game. But when you dive deep into the stats, and if you watched it yourself, this was a complete ass-kicking for Michigan State against Iowa. Iowa got completely dominated in all phases of football: offense, defense, special teams, coaching, everything. So that's kind of my initial thoughts out of the gate for this matchup. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks, here in the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I like to thank you all for your continued support, your time, your attention. And I want to give a big welcome to the channel for all of the Michigan State fans who are tuning in, all of the Hawkeye fans, and all of you college football fans, regardless of your team of fandom. But please, during this instant recap and reaction episode, please, I would love to hear from you each and every episode. If this is your first time with me, I always encourage, welcome, and ask for your comments. Please get involved. I love to hear from you, and I promise I will get back to each and every one of you individually via those comments sooner than later. You're the ones who drive these episodes, and I want to find more college football fans just like you. So please get involved, comment, like, share, rate, subscribe. Definitely want to tell everyone, let's keep momentum on the side of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. All right, so now let me go ahead and dive deeper and unpack everything that we saw last night in Spartan Stadium. And I want to give a big shout out to my man, Jellybird Productions. I kind of enjoyed the outdoors last night, did a little bit of camping, nice campfire, cocktails, great adult conversation with some friends last night. And it was kind of old school. I got back home about 9:30, but before that, it was like days of old, listening to your favorite sporting event on the radio. But I was able to watch the game this morning before coming on air with you, and it definitely looked exactly like it sounded inside of Spartan Stadium. So shout out to Jellybird Productions. He's got a great YouTube channel. Please check it out. So there's your plug there, Jellybird, as I told you I would this episode. So watching this game and listening to it last night, wow. I can't remember the last time that Iowa was really out-Iowa'd by an opponent of equal or lesser talent. I mean, Michigan State came into this ball game. They knew exactly who they were, but they knew exactly who Iowa is, and they stuck to their schedule, their game plan. And they just suffocated Iowa throughout the game. I mean, what a great game plan by Jonathan Smith and his staff, and great execution by the players, everybody. I mean, I was very impressed with it. And it's not really rocket science, all right? All you have to do, if you want to compete against Iowa, not just this season, but seasons of recent past, ghosts of Christmas past, is you basically load the box and you dare Iowa to throw against you. And that's all Michigan State did last night. I mean, they were basically asking, even begging Iowa to attack them vertically down the field. I mean, yes, Iowa's best offensive weapon is the combination of their offensive line and running back Caleb Johnson, who still managed to basically gain just about 100 yards, but I'll expand on that here in a little bit. So all they did is stack the box, brought pressure the entire game, just like I said, just asking Iowa, hey, we're going to give you plays down the field. It's really up to you to make those happen. And Iowa just continues to not be able to manufacture a vertical passing game. It's that simple. I mean, the cat is totally out of the bag how to defeat Iowa. And it's just really frustrating. I know there's a lot of Iowa fans this morning and last night who are just bitching, complaining. They're irritated. Fire coach Kirk Ferentz. This is a lost season. I understand that sentiment, but I'm just basically disappointed. I mean, Iowa was favored by 6.5 in this ball game, and I did pick Iowa to win. I thought that they would win comfortably in this matchup, maybe pull away in the second half, win by double digits, but obviously it didn't happen. And once again, kudos to Michigan State. It's just something that is like a continued record. We've seen this movie before as Hawkeye fans. It just keeps showing, even though we know what the outcome is going to be, we keep watching it. It's just replay, repeat, basically. It's just getting a little much, all right? And it is a disappointing loss, but hey, I predicted Iowa to go 9-3 for the regular season, but I did not predict them to lose at East Lansing against Michigan State. So we'll see what plays out here. I always like to do my stars of the game, and I always like to start with the competitor in this matchup. Lots of stars across the board for Michigan State. I've got to start off with special teams. And once again, that's how you out Iowa is via special teams. Just to expand on this, Iowa's kicking game, Drew Stevens did miss his only field goal attempt, while on the opposite side of it, their kicker, Jonathan Kim, kicked 6 field goals. Yes, that's right. He was 6 of 7. So they attempted 7 field goals, did Michigan State. And Jonathan Kim he was good on 6 out of those 7. Basically right there was the game. I mean, Michigan State had a great game plan. They knew, hey, we need to get our points when the opportunity is there. Let's get points and let's keep the pressure on the Iowa offense. So 6 of 7, great game for Jonathan Kim. Like I said, Drew Stevens, 0 for 1. It's okay, it happens. He still overall is having a very good season for the Hawkeyes as the field goal kicker. Another star for Michigan State, their lines of scrimmage. Both offensive line, defensive line, absolutely just bludgeoned Iowa. It was like a slow death, bleeding out throughout the game. Defensive line, already mentioned, stacking the box. Even though I think they only registered, I don't think they even registered a sack, I think, did Michigan State's defensive line or defense in general. Let me just check here to make sure. They did not actually record a sack on Cade McNamara or Brendan Sullivan last night, but every other play, it seemed like you had one, if not multiple, defenders in the backfield just waiting to corral Iowa's running back or chase down the quarterback. They just were in the back. They lived in the backfield rent-free most of the night, even though they didn't register a sack. but still, I mean, they dominated Iowa's offensive line, and their offensive line of Michigan State. I mean, just set the precedent early. I mean, overall, Michigan State rushed for 212 yards. Quarterback Aiden Giles rushed for 51 yards himself on 11 attempts for 4.6 yards per rush. And that's where I want to go next. My other star for Michigan State, this young quarterback, Aiden Giles, one of the biggest recruits ever for Jonathan Smith while he was at Oregon State last season, takes the Michigan State job, brings young Mr. Giles with him to East Lansing, and we're really seeing this young quarterback really coming of age. He has so much potential. He's just a little bit raw, but he will get better with more reps and experience. And obviously, I know the Iowa coaching staff was watching the game last night, as all of us were, but this is what you need. Right? And Iowa has not had this since going back to Drew Tate, and then before him, Brad Banks at quarterback. You have to have, in this day and age of college football, you have to have a quarterback that is mobile, that can move the pocket, that can extend plays, that can easily tuck and run for 3-4 yards a carry, at least to keep your offense on track. Iowa still continues not to get this. They don't recruit that type of quarterback. I'm not saying Cade McNamara isn't a little bit mobile. I mean, he's not statue-like Spencer Petras and Deacon Hill was last season. I know I hate even mentioning that name, Hawkeye fans. I get it. But, this is what you have to have. This is the present and future of our game, and Iowa continues not to get those kind of dudes at quarterback. So Aiden Giles really had a great game. He's only going to get better, and I think he's at a very good situation there with Michigan State. And I'm going to say this too, and no disrespect to Nebraska, to Big Red, its fans, its program. I have a lot of respect for Nebraska fans, very passionate. But we've heard a lot about Dylan Raiola, the fellow stud freshman quarterback. He definitely has the potential, just like Aiden Giles does. And he is looking really good. Is Mr. Young Raiola? He will get better too, the more experience and more games he plays. But just watching both of these two at this point in the season, I think Aiden Giles does bring a little bit more to the table. Now, I say that now, but I will see Dylan Raiola more up close and personal when Iowa and Nebraska match up later this season on Black Friday. I just kind of think Aiden Giles has the slight advantage right now over Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. But those are the stars for Michigan State. I mean, just absolutely, Iowa had no chance in this game. All right, they didn't. Like I said, a 12-point loss on the scoreboard. It looked much better and closer than what it really was. Now, for Iowa stars, I got to find one. I will say that kick returner Caleb Wedgen, who I really like this guy, Caden Wedgen, kind of, Cooper DeJean 2.0. The guy is this close. He is instant offense, instant playmaking. The guy is like a bullet out of a gun when he gets the chance to return a kick, a kickoff, or a punt return. And he has been so close most of the season. He is going to break one off for a touchdown at some point this season. He really is due. But his kick returns, and he had lots of opportunities with all of the field goals and the touchdowns that Michigan State did score, that Caden Wedgen ended up 5 returns for 145 yards, so just under 30 yards per return. That's getting it done right there. It just is. So I did like Caden Wedgen's performance for Iowa. Caleb Johnson, he did end up with a decent stat line, and he is, like I said, Iowa's best offensive weapon in combo with that very good offensive line, who is good, for rushing. The rushing attack for Iowa is really good, but they still seem to struggle a little bit with pass protection. But Caleb Johnson did end up with 98 yards rushing on 14 attempts. That's 7 yards per tote. But the vast majority of those, and he did end up with 1 touchdown. And that's where the vast majority of those yards came. In the second half, he broke off a 75-yard touchdown run, which then put Iowa back into the game. So that's really where those yards came from. He finally was able to get loose and get to the edge against that stacked Michigan State defense. So, I mean, good stat line, but for the most part, he was corralled by Michigan State's defense. And that's really the only other star that I can mention. I mean, I will say this. Young wide receiver, the freshman for Iowa, Reese Vanderzee. I mean, wow, this guy does have some playmaking potential, especially as he gets older. He's a true freshman, but one of the best catches that we've seen for a long time at Iowa. Their opening drive in the second half to start the third quarter. I mean, a pretty good pass from Cade McNamara, one of the best passes that we've seen him ever make in an Iowa uniform. Probably the best pass he threw all night, last night, by the way. Caleb Vanderzee made a kind of a very circus-like catch near the pylon for a touchdown. Man, what a grab. So that was another star performance. But other than that, it was tough to really find a lot of stars, a lot of good benchmarks for this Iowa team yesterday on a positive note. Now, negatively for Iowa, it gets down to their lack of their pass potential and just how they cannot manufacture anything. They can't. I mean, Cade McNamara's numbers, 11 for 23, 150 yards, so well under 50% completion percentage, 1 touchdown to 1 interception. One of the worst interceptions that I can remember in recent history, and that's with Deacon Hill last year. Ugh. Spencer Petras before him. And even Ricky Stanzi, his first year when he was the starter, I mean, he had tendency just to throw right to the opposing side's jersey. But just an awful, awful interception in the third quarter, especially when Iowa was kind of getting some momentum, making a charge to maybe get back in the game, if not take the lead. So, and just to further back that up, I mean, I check this because I remember this morning the announcer saying this, but I had to check that Cade McNamara, and this kind of summarizes Iowa's offensive passing attack, that a wide receiver not only did not have a single reception in the first half, but they weren't even targeted once in the first half. And that's just unacceptable. I mean, these wide receivers, I can't blame it all on Cade McNamara. We know he doesn't have a very strong arm. We know that he continues to not really step when he throws. And I know they're making a big deal right now about him not using the laces. Laces out, Dan. He doesn't really throw with the laces either, but when you watch him, even if he has room in the pocket, he does not step forward and throw. He's flat-footed or he's leaning backwards. But those wide receivers, they still get 0 to very little separation. I mean, you've got to get open to give your quarterback a chance to make a play, and they continue just not to do that. It's going to be a long season. I mean, if teams can corral Caleb Johnson like Sparty did last night, Iowa's going to find themselves in a lot more rock fights like this one. And that's just how it's going to be a continuing theme for us Hawkeye fans. So yeah, the passing attack, non-existent. And this Iowa defense, I'm not going to pick on them too much because the last 5 seasons, we've seen how good this side of the ball can be under stud DC Phil Parker. Last night's game, once Sebastian Castro went out early in the game with the ankle injury, You could tell right there, Michigan State knew we're going to attack their biggest weakness. And it's been a weakness not just last night because of that injury, but all season long. This Iowa secondary, other than Jamari Harris, they have been prone to giving up big chunk plays, to be really lackadaisical with coverage, way too much cushion. And Michigan State, once again, great coaching and great recognition by Aiden Childs to just attack the Iowa second stringers. And even a third stringer ended up coming in because somebody else Edinger got hurt during the game as well. And those freshmen who came in for an Iowa secondary, little to no experience for game time, well, it just was not a good first experience for them. But you really can't expect much. I mean, and Michigan State absolutely exploited that Iowa weakness that they've had all season, and then some last night when you add, we're already underperforming, but now we're going to have backups in there. So kudos to them once again to identify that. And I can't remember the last time that I saw an Iowa defense just miss so many tackles. And when I say miss tackles, not get olayed, even though that did happen a few times last night, a few too many, but just over and over again, the yak yards, the yards after contact. I mean, Michigan State, it seemed like they were getting out of every initial wrap-up tackle by the Iowa defenders. I mean, giving up 2 to 4 extra yards, that is going to mount up. And Iowa, they just let so many opportunities go. I mean, I haven't seen them not wrap up and bring guys to the ground in a very long time. So that has to get fixed. And the other thing, I mean, with the secondary having issues, this is another one of those potentials. I'm just watching my time here. I'm going to wrap this up here in a little bit. I've got a tea time this morning, and happy Sunday morning to you and yours, by the way. I got a tea time this morning. Don't want to be late for that guy. But when you have a secondary that's undermanned and undermatched, if your defensive line cannot create pressure, it makes it worse. Because then an average quarterback eventually is going to pick you apart like Michigan State did. I think Iowa only recorded 2 sacks on the evening. And Aiden Childs is a guy who moves all over the place. So a lot of those were, hey, we tracked him down. He was trying to extend a play. Their defensive line continues to not generate that pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And it's going to be difficult. It's just difficult to watch an Iowa defense where this squad is compared to where they've been the last 5 years. And they're probably still going to end up a top 20 defense, but they're not going to be a top 10 to top 5 as we've gotten used to. We've gotten a little bit spoiled in Iowa City. But so defense, yeah, and I can't remember the last time they gave up this many yards. I mean, what total yards? I think it was 485 total yards. Nope. 468 yards for Michigan State compared to Iowa's 283. I can't remember the last time an Iowa defense gave up that many yards against a team other than an Ohio State, a Michigan, or a Penn State. It's been a long time. But so where do we go from here? And thank you, Iowa fans, Michigan State fans. Please comment, get involved. I want to hear from you. Like, share, rate, subscribe. Where do we go from here? You know, I already said Iowa, the big picture, they're done. All right. Pride is really going to be on the line from now on. And all these people have been talking about playoffs, even after the Ohio State loss. And last week, Iowa had their best, most complete outing and game of the season against Washington when they absolutely kicked their ass. But I was telling people we're not going to talk playoffs until the end of October or November, at least on this channel, and that puts it to rest. I mean, this is going to be another typical Iowa season, 8 to 9 wins. But a lot of people are very disappointed because everything that we had coming back on both sides of the ball, and the schedule was the outlier. So I can see and I understand. I can understand Hawkeye fans, why some of you are so agitated, angry, infuriated, because we had everything lined up that was in front of us, and we couldn't cash in on this season, this opportunity. But I'm not one of those. I'm still happy. I'm not giving up on the Hawkeyes. I'm a loyal fan. So where we go from here, Iowa returns home next weekend, or I should say this coming weekend, inside Kinnick Stadium. It's homecoming weekend. I will be there with my 12-year-old son. They take on Northwestern, so hopefully Iowa can get themselves up off the mat. While Michigan State, with all of this momentum, they travel to their bitter in-state rival. They travel to Ann Arbor to take on Big Brother, the Michigan Wolverines, inside the Big House. So got to watch that game. One of the best rivalries in our sport each and every season. So that's where we go from here. I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Please comment, like, share, rate, subscribe. Thank you for your time and your attention. Without you, none of this would be possible. I will be back later this week on Thursday for my week 9. Yeah, that's right. It's already week 9. How crazy is that? Like sands through the hourglass. So are weeks of this college football season, just flying by. So I will be back Thursday with my week 9 preview and picks episode. So make sure to check me out then. And once that is posted, find me. You can click on the notification button to get reminded or pinged when that's posted. So until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, your work week, your school week. Thanks for everything you do for the channel, and I'll see you later on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Go Hawks.